Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be doing the Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them book tag. I was tagged to do this by Jenna over at Just a Little Bit Random. I will leave a link to her channel in the description down below. She's awesome. Please check her out. So I have seen Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them and I really loved it. I actually can't wait to see it again. I was a little bit nervous I wouldn't like it because it had been so hyped up and I was so excited for it, but it really was worth the watch. So if you haven't seen it, please go see it. So all of the questions in this tag are based on Fantastic Beasts which are mentioned in that film. So there are 10 questions and they have reasonably long question description type things, so I'm going to try and get through it as quickly as I can. So the first question is Niffler, a creature that seeks out treasure and steals what it can, a book that you have borrowed or stolen. And there is only one book in my possession that I have recently borrowed or stolen, and that is The Little Shop of Happy Ever After by Jenny Colgan. This actually belongs to one of my real life best friends and I read it ages ago, earlier on this year, and I still haven't given it back to her, and I keep meaning to, and I will soon, I promised, but every time I see her I always forget to bring this book to give back to her. So I'm not really a fan of stealing books, so yeah, I'm gonna give this back to her as soon as I can so that it can go back to its rightful home. The next question is Bowtruckle, a creature that has a talent for picking locks. And the question is a book that unlocks the key to your true personality. And I think this is a really interesting question and I did have to think quite hard about it, but I think the book that encompasses all that I try to put across in my own personality is Holding Up the Universe by Jennifer Niven. This is a recently released YA contemporary that I absolutely adored. It's one of my favourite books ever, and I just think that in my everyday life, I do try to channel my inner Libby, who is one of the protagonists of this book. She is not perfect and she knows she's not perfect, but she tries to put her best self across and tries to basically just give other people as much positivity as possible. And that's something that I do try to do, even though I know that my own life isn't perfect and that I still have a lot of work to do by myself. I do try my absolute hardest to put out positive vibes and basically just make everybody a little bit happier than they were before. So yeah, I feel like Holding Up the Universe does encompass all of that. So yeah. The next question is Thunderbird, a creature that can create storms with its wings and has the ability to sense danger. The question is a book that creates a storm of discussion because of its potentially dangerous subject matter. And for this, I have to say 50 Shades of Grey by E.L. James. Obviously, this book and this whole trilogy creates a whole storm of discussion about potentially abusive relationships and what that might look like. And I couldn't think of a better answer out of all of the books I've read, really. I guess I could have also picked Only Ever Yours by Louise O'Neill because that talks about how women are viewed in society and things like that. I could also have picked Twilight if you want to talk about potentially abusive relationships as well, but I just felt that 50 Shades of Grey was the perfect book for that question. So yeah. The next question is Swooping Evil, a very scary creature that has the ability to suck out brains and bad memories, a book you wish you could forget. And again, this was a pretty easy answer for me. A book that I really wish I could forget is American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis. Now, it's not because I didn't like this book, but it was just so disgusting, and the images that are described in this are just so vile, and I do actually find myself just randomly, horrifyingly picturing just random scenes from this book, and I really wish I couldn't. It's just been so imprinted in my mind, and I read it over a year ago now and I still find myself coming back to the horrific images that this book left me with. So I know that I can never watch the film because that would just be literally a visual representation, which is probably 100 times worse than what's in my head. So yeah, it's not a bad book, but I remember I couldn't give it more than 3 stars because I never ever want to read it again. So yeah, it's definitely a book that I wish I could forget. The next question is Demiguise, a peaceful creature that can turn invisible and it can feel the future and change it. A book that depicts a possibly visible future. And for this, of course, I have to say 1984 by George Orwell. So much of this is tragically becoming true already. Obviously, Big Brother, thought police, government control, all of that stuff. And obviously, this book was written a hell of a long time ago. And I find it amazing how much of this is actually true now. Okay, so perhaps it wasn't quite as true in 1984, but certainly in 2016, a lot of this is certainly true. And this was written in the late 1940s, I think. So yeah, it's really, really fascinating. If you haven't read this before, I really recommend that you do, just to basically see for yourself how accurate and how increasingly accurate George Orwell's 1984 is actually becoming. So yeah. The next question is Okami, a creature which can grow or shrink to the size of a football field or the size of a teacup. The largest book you own and the smallest book you own. So the largest book I own is this gorgeous collection of the complete works of William Shakespeare. I've only ever dipped in and out of this, but I love Shakespeare. I've studied him a lot throughout school and university as well, and I am a pretty big Shakespeare fan. So yeah, as I said, I haven't read all of his plays and his sonnets and all of that, but I have dipped in and out of it. And yeah, I absolutely love this. I never ever want to get rid of it. It's this gorgeous, gorgeous edition, and it's really, really super heavy, and it's certainly the largest book I own. And the smallest book I own, weirdly, is Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them by Newt Scamander. And this is obviously the Hogwarts Library edition. I got this in a little kind of slipcase with Quidditch Through the Ages and Tales of Beedle the Bard, and this is only 85 pages long, but this is the book that Newt is writing in Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. I don't actually have the screenplay with the beautiful cover book that everybody has of the film. This is the actual book that Newt is writing, and it's basically just got lots of descriptions of all of the creatures that he studies. So there's a bit on centaurs there. There's a bit on demiguises. It's a really, really cute little book, and I love the way that they've done these as well to make them look like Hogwarts library books. The next question is Nundu. They are difficult to catch and move silently despite their huge size. A book that you listen to silently. Now, I don't actually listen to audiobooks, so I actually don't have an answer for this. I don't know why I don't listen to audiobooks. Maybe I should get into them, but I don't know. I just prefer to listen to music and actually read books. So I'm afraid I don't have an answer for that because I don't really listen to audiobooks. The next question is a Graphorn. Newt saved the last breeding pair, and without them they would be extinct. A book that is going extinct that you want to save. So this book isn't really going extinct, and I was kind of thinking, okay, what's a book that's going extinct? Because I couldn't really think of any. But I'm going to pick a book that used to be talked about a lot on book blogs and on BookTube, but I don't really feel is being talked about that much anymore. And that is The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. Obviously, this is still a really, really popular book, but I don't really see it around as much as I used to. I don't know whether that's because obviously the hype for it has died down because it's been out quite a few years now. Obviously the film's been out a couple of years as well, so I don't know if that's the reason people aren't talking about it, but I really, really love this book, and it actually really changed me as a person when I read it. So yeah, I do think that if you've somehow not read The Fault in Our Stars and you are a huge fan of YA contemporary and YA emotional contemporary, then please pick this up because it's a very, very powerful book, and as I said, it really did change me as a person the first time I read it. So yeah. The next question is Billywhigs. Billywhigs. They have a powerful sting that can affect both magical and muggle folk. A book that you read with someone else that stung you emotionally. Now, I haven't read many books with other people. I don't do many buddy reads. I don't know why. I'm very much up for them. If you guys ever want to do a buddy read with me, that's absolutely fine. So I have just picked a book that very much stung me emotionally. And I think the book probably that has stung me emotionally most of all that I've read is Eleanor and Park by Rainbow Rowell. And I talked about this book loads, but every time I read it, and I have read it a few times now, it just gets me. It just gets me right in the feels. The ending is terribly tragic and terribly just, oh my God, I didn't see that happening. All of the tears, all of the feels just come gushing out of me. So yeah, I had to say Eleanor and Park for that. But also a special mention for that question is My Sister Lives on the Mantelpiece by Annabelle Pitcher. I cried like a baby when I read this book, and this is a middle grade rather than a YA, but it really got me, and probably not actually the bit that was supposed to get me was the bit that made me cry. So yeah, I really recommend that you pick this up if you love a good cry too. And the last question is Erumpent, a friendly creature unless you're its foe. Its thick skin can repel most spells. A book that was very dense that you found difficult to get through. And this is probably an unpopular opinion, but I found it pretty difficult to get through The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald, and I've read it more than once. I've read it twice, I think, and it's not a very long book, but I don't know, I think I just found the writing style and the description quite dense and quite not that engaging. So it is the only F. Scott Fitzgerald book that I've read, and I think that may have maybe put me off reading any more of his books, because I think it probably was the writing style that just didn't sit that well with me. But I did actually really enjoy the film with Leonardo DiCaprio in it, so I don't know, I think it probably is the writing style more than the story and the characters that made it a little bit tricky for me to get through. So yeah, and that is it for the Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them a book tag. If you feel like doing this tag, then feel free to. I'm not going to tag anyone in particular. I will leave all of my social media in the description down below. I hope you're having an awesome day, and I will see you very soon for another video. Bye bye.